Hey, welcome into this week's episode of Cincinnati Podcasts. It's the special episode here where we're going to talk football and basketball and National Signing Day recruits. It's going to be a great episode. I'm your host, T Money. That's main man Giggsy on the East Coast in Raleigh. What's going on, Greg?
Not much. How's it going?
Not too bad. I'm on the East Coast now. I'm in Ohio. Feels good to be in the state where we are the best of all the football teams in the state of Ohio.
Yes, sir.
It's exciting stuff. It's exciting.
I'll be up to Ohio in 3 days. I'm excited.
This is exciting.
Nice to get back home.
Oh yeah. We're pumped, obviously, because we've officially made the college football playoff. Hell yes,
Let's
deserve
go.
that. Greg and I will be down there. Going to be a fun one. That'll be so much fun to be there for that.
Yes, sir. That's going to be – it should be fun. Good experience. I've heard the Cotton Bowl is like the bowl to go to, so Jerry World, I'm pumped.
Yeah. Can't wait to go to Jerry World. So we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to give a quick preview of these, the playoff games, but we're going to do a deeper dive into the Bama game at a later date. A quick recap of the Houston game. Then we're going to talk about all the awards that our team has won this year, give some of our own awards to the Cincinnati team, and then talk about today's big National Signing Day and where we're ending up. And then a quick recap of everything that's happening and going to happen with basketball. So before we dive into this week's episode, this podcast is sponsored by Chili Labs. Chili Labs is owned and operated by a UC alum and is the most affordable lab-tested CBD on the market. You can find out more at chililabs.com and use the promo code CATS for 10% off. So let's dive in here. We got the first college football bowl game set, a lot of New Year's Day set, but have fun, Ohio State, have fun, Notre Dame, have fun, Oklahoma State, Baylor. You guys can have fun New Year's Day, but New Year's Eve is where it's all going down, baby. And that's the college football playoff. We got number 1 Alabama versus number 4 Cincinnati and number 2 Michigan versus number 3 Georgia. First initial thoughts here.
We want Bama. We got Bama too.
Bama wants us, Greg.
True. Do you know what the line is? I know it started at like 13.5, which is probably about what I would agree with, honestly.
Yeah, I believe it's 13 right now. It'll be interesting to see how much the line moves. It still is 13.5. The over-under is 58. FPI gives Bama a 70% chance of winning. So, about 2 out of 3 go to Bama, they say. So it's going to be a really fun game. I'm excited to get Bama. There's a lot of injuries to their team. Mechie, their best receivers out, their best corners out. They got a lot of people banged up having to go through that SEC schedule. So that'll be interesting. Then we got Michigan, Georgia on the other side there. That's going to be a fun game. 2 powerhouse teams with great defenses and solid run games.
The thing that I don't know, playing Bama is not so much scary, but like Bama is Bama. Like it's a different animal, regardless of whether or not this is like completely unbeatable Bama this year. Like it's still a really, really good team.
They got
their offensive line, when you mention Michigan and Georgia, they have offensive lines. Bama's offensive line is not like theirs. So they do have Bryce Young, Heisman quarterback.
If you ever
he's decent and potentially the number 1 receiver going off the board in April in Jamison Williams.
Yeah, but
their offensive line leaves some holes, but we'll see.
Yeah, going to be really interesting to see. This Bama game will be fun to do a deeper dive in, see, look into the matchups here. And then Michigan, Georgia should be just a great 2-3 as well. I wouldn't have been surprised if, we ended up at 3 and Michigan was 1. There's a lot of movement, but hey, we made the playoff. Thank you to Baylor. That was an awesome game to watch. And they held enough inches, 1 total inch from keeping Oklahoma State out and probably Cincinnati out of the college football playoff. So that was an awesome game to watch.
I'm convinced had Oklahoma State gotten that touchdown, we would not be in the playoffs.
Outside looking in.
Yeah. That 1 to 2 inches, that was unbelievable.
Crazy. So that was a crazy day. We can dive into the game that we had, and that was when we played Houston. We ended up winning 35-20, pretty convincing second half that Cincinnati had, going 21-7 in the second half, really turning it on after Houston got out to a quick 10 points. After that, only 10 through the next three quarters. Initial thoughts, reactions to the game?
I mean, it was a close game to start, 14-13 at half, which I don't think I was expecting it to be that close, but Houston's a really good team. I mean, they ended the season with 2 losses total. So that had me sweating a bit, but then the way we came out in the second half, but specifically that third quarter, and just punched Houston in the mouth, that's when you say, look, we're a better team than you. We're going to show it. That Joel DeBlanco pick was the momentum shift in that game, because we came out quick in the second and got that really quick touchdown. And then Joel DeBlanco, on one of the first plays that Houston had in the second half, Clayton Tune threw it right to him. And then from then on, it was game over, essentially.
Yep. Really crazy third quarter there, 21-0. Like you said, just punched him in the mouth. Not that big. The fourth quarter touchdown with 6 minutes left. The game's basically over. So, you can't really even call it that. It was 35-13. It was pretty convincing. Ritter had a solid game, only 190 from him but he had 3 passing touchdowns. So that was great. But Ford, man, another big game from him, almost 200 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. That's really where we put it to him, was in that run game. And they were supposed to have an elite defensive line.
I think the thing also Dez had 190. He was only 11 for 17, which off the top of my head,
didn't throw it.
Guess somewhere around like 60%. Yeah. So not a bad game. QBR 89, so not bad. But this kind of goes back to how it was in the beginning of the season, or maybe not beginning, but like midway through the season, where we were just beating teams' heads in. But Dez would have 220, an average game, a couple touchdowns, no crazy numbers, but we were just killing teams. And I think it's a product of the way our defense was playing when we were beating those teams by a lot in the middle of the season. And I think our defense has kind of gotten back to that point. So Dez is like, I don't need to throw for 300 yards. And Jerome Ford broke a 79-yarder, but I mean,
still at 110 after that.
Exactly. We just didn't need a crazy offensive output based on how well the defense played, and we were still extremely efficient. So I think we're turning it on at the right time, and that was a big win against a very good team that's going to be playing, I believe, Auburn in their bowl. So
yeah, solid game.
I was very happy.
The one thing that does scare me, I called it out before, their top guy, Dell, their receiver, 9 receptions for 152 and a touchdown. I mean, if that guy's doing that to you, Jameson Williams can do some insane stuff for Alabama, their best receiver. So, I don't know if Sauce wasn't following him around or anything, because obviously, that's what scares me a little bit is, he's the one guy you got to shut down, and you can't. Just imagine what Bryce Young and Williams can do on the other side.
So I think the big thing with that, though, was the amount of times, like, Dana had hit Dell in the backfield. He had him in the slot. He had him on the boundary. He had him on the field side. It was mostly him, but they had a guy in motion basically every single play to try to tip our coverage and just to get like favorable matchups. So
we were just giving him everything underneath too. It wasn't like he was destroying us, but
exactly. And that was the thing. And I don't know I think it might have been Dell's touchdown or if it was the other guy's touchdown, but you had Javon Hicks covering him. So a safety on their best wide receiver. Yeah. So but is it kind of like pick your poison? Like, we'll let you have 150 yards and we're still going to beat you by 20 points because you can't do anything but those quick little slants and like some tricky plays. So I was happy with the way everyone played.
Yep. It was exciting, little nervous after that first quarter, but then we just opened it up. So it was so exciting to watch. Super happy for them. Let's move on to some of the postseason awards. Real quickly, we'll touch. Dez finished 8th overall in the Heisman rankings, so that was awesome. Just to we didn't have the top 5 in our top 4 New York finish that we were hoping for, but hey, 8th overall, pretty great for Dez. So that's the end of his season.
Yep. I mean, beautiful season. I was looking into Dez's overall career stats, and this was his highest rated year by far. So, which is kind of interesting because, like we were just talking about, he had a lot of not so much unimpressive, mediocre games.
Yeah.
But his rating was almost 165. His QBR was 75, which was 25th in the country. But he threw for the first time in his career, threw for over 3,000 yards. For the first time in his career, he hit 30 touchdowns. He had never thrown for more than 20 in a season, which is completely mind blowing. When I was looking at that today, it blew my mind entirely. But I mean, he just had a really great season and just showed again, like he's just a winner. He just goes out and wins.
Yeah.
So
we're excited for him. Still won Offensive Player of the Year in the American as well. So it's not like he had a bad season. So, like you said, threw for 30 touchdowns. He had control of the game a lot of times. He looked out of sync sometimes, but I think he's got a month to prepare for this next one. So that's exciting. We can jump to the big ones. Ahmad Gardner, first team All-American, and Kobe obviously gets second team All-American and wins best cornerback or defensive back in the country. So really exciting, huge year for Kobe. Sauce, we expected. He won the American Athletic Player of the Year. He was first team All-American. I mean, he's going to be a first-round draft pick. He's projected by Tom McShay to go, I believe, 18th or 14th right now to Minnesota. Ritter projected to go in the first round as well to New Orleans Saints, at about 19. So those two guys expect to go in the first round, but I expect Kobe to be second, third rounder now after such an impressive year.
Oh, for sure. And touching on Dez too, I mean, I like where he's being projected right now because currently the Saints are throwing Taysom Hill out there. And like, I think there's a really good opening for Dez to come to a solid team. So that's pretty exciting. But yeah, I mean, Kobe winning the Thorpe was absolutely massive. Insane. And maybe like you can argue, obviously Sauce is the top two cornerback in the entire country. With Stingley hurt, I think he's number one, but he just didn't have the stats this year because nobody threw at him. So I think it's amazing that like Kobe wins because he has those stats. He got targeted a decent amount, got some picks, and proved to be another shutdown corner.
Anyone in the country. So
yeah, and best cornerback duo in the entire country too. So
for sure. No, it was exciting. Great for them. Best defensive backfield in the country for sure. And then we got Luke Fickell taking home Home Depot Coach of the Year, winning the Conference Coach of the Year. Him and Harbaugh kind of trading back on Coach of the Year on all the major award platforms. CBS, I think, had Fickell. Another platform had Harbaugh, but Fickell winning a lot of Coach of the Year awards as well. And it very rightly deserved. Only undefeated team in the country.
I get the Harbaugh winning it though, because I mean Michigan was unranked to start the year, so like
start the year, yeah,
well deserved. But I mean Luke Fickell, Home Depot Coach of the Year, that's amazing,
pretty exciting. And then we also had Darian Beavers nominated for the Butt Kiss Award, which was awesome, kind of unexpected. He had a great year, but I mean he for the best linebacker in the country, and he made the final nomination list. That was awesome for him.
Yep. I mean, again, just another amazing performance and kind of crazy because, I mean, I guess I'm going to touch a little bit more on the defensive stats in the next segment. So I'll get to that.
Well, let's jump in here. That was a lot of the awards that were won at least. We can jump into sort of a recap of the entire season as a team, as individuals, give out some superlatives for who we think are offensive and defensive MVPs, our biggest surprises, and some dark horse players for next year. So let's kick it off, Greg. Any team stats that stick out to you? Anything you want to talk about as a team as a whole?
The one that's really jumped, there are two players, and this is on the defensive side, because, I mean, we kind of knew what we had coming into the offensive side for the most part this season, and I guess that can be said the same for the defense, but two big surprises for me. Curtis Brooks led the team in sacks. So we had a defensive tackle leading the team in sacks with 7.5, with 50 total tackles, and Joel DeBlanco, 106 tackles on the season. The next closest behind him was Darian Beavers with 89. Like, that was I was not expecting that, but he's your prototypical like amazing linebacker, and those kind of jumped off of the page for me. And I guess to jump to biggest surprise of the season, I'm going to give it to Curtis Brooks. I think he was just a stout defender right in the middle of that defensive line and gave everybody else a chance to like get to the quarterback. And I wasn't expecting 7.5 sacks on the season from him. I was thinking probably Majay would have 7.5 sacks, if not a lot more. But it shows the amount of attention that went to Majay, Malik Van, and Curtis Brooks got there. So, at least for me, biggest surprise of the season, Curtis Brooks.
All right. Biggest surprise of the season for me, I am going with Darian Beavers. I think coming into this year, one of our biggest questions on our awesome defense was our linebacking core. And maybe I'm just going to give it to Blanco and Beavers, just linebacking core in general. That was our biggest question. Yeah. I mean, it was an awesome season for those two. They both made first team All-American Athletic Conference. Like I said earlier, Beavers was nominated for the best linebacker in the country, and we were supposed to have a very, very down year at linebacker. So I think defensive side, those guys are my biggest surprises. Obviously, I think we both can agree defensively, Sauce is our MVP. We don't really have to get into that side, but surprise on the defensive side, I'm giving it to the linebacking core as a whole.
Okay, good. If you didn't give it to Pace, I was gonna give an honorable mention to Deshaun Pace too, because linebacker leading the team in interceptions. He blocked a kick, forced fumble. He was, and we have a lot of time left with him, so the future looks bright for that linebacking core.
Yeah, excited. So let's hop to the offensive side. I think we'll probably both agree that Dez is the offensive MVP. So we, great season by him, excited for him. But biggest surprise, I'll go first here. I know we both kind of thought it going. Okay. I was originally going to go Alec Pierce. I'm going to say that, though he seemed too obvious and not really that much of a surprise. I'm giving it to our offensive line as a whole again. I'm going as a whole again.
I like it.
Okay. They were supposed to be our worst unit of the entire team. And some of these guys made first team all conference and were just really solid. Metz, our guard, made it. O'Quinn, our tackle, made it. Renfro, our center, made it. All first team American Athletic Conference guys. And we were supposed to be extremely down, and they were supposed to be our weakest link. Excited to call them by far my biggest surprise of anyone on the team this year.
Yep. I like that. I like it a lot. I'm going to stick on the receiving core, and I'm going to give it to Tyler Scott. I knew coming into the season, and especially hearing the way that he played in camp, I knew we had something special with this freshman. But man, he's not a big player. Like I want to say he's like 5'11". Yeah, 5'11", less than 180 pounds. That's on the official Go Bearcats site. But he was a lot of times like. He was a deep threat, and you don't see that. Like you see Alec Pierce is a deep threat because he's 6'3", 6'4", has a 40-inch vert. Tyler Scott had so many long touchdowns.
Yeah.
I think he was third for receivers and touchdowns with 5. Yep, just behind Josh Wiley with 6 and Pierce at 8. So I was excited to see what he did as a freshman. And like I said for Deshaun Pace, well, I guess he's not a freshman, maybe a redshirt. But like I said with Deshaun Pace, like we have a lot of time left with him, and I was surprised to see second on the team in yards. I'm very, very pleased with his output.
Excited. Love that pick. Let's jump into our last award that we're going to give out, and not really an award, just an expectation. Who's going to be the breakout player of 2022's team? I'm going to say, I don't know if this is obvious or if it's not obvious at all, but I'm going to go Evan Prater. I'm teetering on the edge of maybe saying Ryan Montgomery, but we saw a lot of him this year, especially with Jerome Ford getting hurt. And like I said, I don't know if this is obvious because Prater comes in as the highest recruited player to Cincinnati in history.
but we haven't seen. I mean, he threw like I think 11 passes this year for 38 yards, somewhere around there. And he actually he ran a good amount whenever he was in the game. He had over 100 yards and had the highest average per rush. I think at like almost 9 yards on the team. But yeah, I think our breakout next year is going to be Evan Prater. The reins are in his hands. We still have a very solid team coming back. Our receiving core is only getting better at this point, and solid running back room, even with Jerome Ford most likely going to the NFL. So Evan Prater gets my vote. I'm extremely excited to see how he plays next year. I mean, let's win 2 in a row, and then I want to get to camp and see how he does.
Yeah, excited for him. The guy I am going with, though, is I think he's going to come back. I'm not 100% sure, but I think Leonard Taylor, if he comes back.
Okay? I like that.
If he comes back, I truly believe he could be an All-American tight end. He turned out to be a very special talent this year, just kind of popped off the screen whenever he got balls thrown at his way. I know Wiley was the big name on our team, but we churn out tight ends like it's nothing. And I really like Leonard Taylor, if he comes back, to be probably the focal point of our passing offense next year and really jump up some draft boards. I really like him if he comes back to be the breakout guy for next year.
I really like that. And I think he also got to show that because Wiley got so much attention. He was like, hey,
his skill.
I'm another 4-star tight end here.
That was my thing. He's a 4-star tight end. He's a legit athlete. So that's who I'm excited for.
Is it stupid that our 2 breakout players and kind of like unheard? I mean, Lenny's not unheard of, neither is Prater, but they're both like very high 4-star players.
Well, they just haven't got the field because they've had better guys in front of them. Those are the two positions where we've had elite talents at this year. So
exactly, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, speaking of 4 stars, let's scoot over to National Signing Day here. We started the day at 28th projected, or 28th in the country. We're now 33rd in the country, still incredible. You know, we're higher than the likes of Oregon and some of our other Big 12 foe. I mean, it's just really exciting to see how well we did. Oregon, Purdue, Texas Tech, Minnesota, UCLA. These are all teams that we're
Iowa
better than right now in recruiting, which is awesome. We were 45th last year, so just moving up to 33rd in the country, pretty exciting stuff. So initial thoughts, 35th now. We just had an update come through. Apologies. And first initial thoughts on National Signing Day.
Did that just update? Well, yes. Okay, so I'm also looking at 24/7's ratings because
that's what I am as well.
Well, so the composite has us at 35, but 24/7, and that takes into account ESPN and Rivals, who are both kind of trash. So 24/7 has us at number 30. So I'm gonna latch onto that one.
I trust them a little more.
Exactly. But the thing that I'm pumped about is you take Texas and Oklahoma out of the equation, and we come in with the 4th recruiting class right now in the new Big 12.
Thinking the same thing.
And that's what we're doing with – we're in the American Athletic Conference. We're in a not Power 5 conference, as much as I hate to say it. It's not the best, and we're recruiting like this. The thing that I'm very, very excited for is – so we come into this Big 12. Those 2 teams leave. We're now competing against – we're on the same playing field in the Big 12, but listen to these like cities – that we're competing against. We can say either, okay, come to Cincinnati, beautiful 2 million population city, beautiful campus right in the middle of the city, absolutely like architecturally amazing. Or do you want to go to Waco, Texas, Ames, Iowa, Lawrence, Kansas, Manhattan, Kansas, Stillwater, Oklahoma, TCU's in Fort Worth, but it's a Christian school, so, and then Lubbock, Morgantown looks pretty fun. But I think the huge selling point is, like, look what we're doing right now. Then with the Big 12 name, like, personally, I wouldn't want to go to a school in the middle of nowhere in Oklahoma. Maybe that's just me, but I feel like we can lead this conference.
You're not going to be able to convince me to go to Iowa State over Cincinnati. I think that's going to be pretty hard. Hey, you want to go to the middle of nowhere. So,
unless you're from there,
there's a couple things you tell these recruits, right? Fickle's not going anywhere. He turned down a Notre Dame job. He's going for Ohio State or that's it. All right. He's not going anywhere. Look what we've done in the past 4 years without elite recruiting classes and elite recruits. Do you want to change that? And thirdly, we're not a low-level school anymore. We are in the Power 5. We're in the Big 12. Just imagine as we continue to rise through these ranks and you join this group. I mean, there's a lot of selling points right now to jump on the Cincinnati bandwagon. Excited for all these commits. We've got 2 4-stars. A lot of our guys are top end 3 stars. I mean, we rule the world and, pulling in defensive guys right now. That's where Fickle's bread and butter is. So that's where a lot of our top recruits are. But hey, I like that being who we are and then just trying to lock down an elite quarterback. So, which we've done as well. So for 2023.
Exactly. I mean, well, and then if we want to go over a few of these players, I highlighted, I don't know how many in total we signed. I didn't count them all up. I want to say 18.
Right now we have 18 3-stars and 2 4-stars.
Oh, so we actually got 20. Okay, is that counting? Okay, so we did have Danny Lewis committed as of September, but he did not sign with us today. Doesn't mean he's not going to, but he kind of blew up at the Louisiana High School Championship, and LSU's hot on his trail, as is Florida. So I'm thinking we're probably going to lose him. So that takes us to what? 19. And then, okay, so to lead the class, JQ Hardaway, we've talked about him in the past, cornerback. We talked about him on the last pod, that he jumped up to 171st nationally. Mm-hmm. I think he has a chance. I don't think he'll come in and start because we have a couple good corners still there. Arquan Bush is most likely going to be back. Sammy Anderson, Justin Harris. But I think JQ comes in and has a chance to be a really good second stringer, maybe get some first string time. I don't know. New commit.
These guys, man.
Oh, yeah. Mario Eugenio, we just signed him recently, 270 nationally. Maybe a replacement for Maje as a rush end. I don't know if he has the length at 6'3", 240. I think we might look to the transfer portal. But again, another great prospect. Derek Shepard, big defensive lineman in the middle, top 15 player in Ohio. He can come in and make an immediate impact.
Yeah.
And I think, we signed him a few months ago. I actually don't know the date off the top of my head. Oh, November 10th. Luther Richardson. I think by the time Prater is all said and done here, I think he can be a special, special quarterback. He's 6'3". He has the size. He was coached by Trent Dilfer in high school. Didn't get too much attention because he blew up during COVID, and he played for a very small private school in Nashville. So we might have gotten a diamond in the rough here, but with the way this coaching staff develops, honestly, like any of these players can be diamonds in the rough. I think developmentally, we're probably one of the best teams in the entire country. So as we continue to recruit better, I think our trajectory, we can become the Clemson of the Big 12 potentially.
Sure. Love it. Love it. Excited for all these guys. Want to mention one big signing. I think maybe the biggest in general though. Ryan Coe. Okay, we got Ryan Coe transferring in as our new kicker, which we've been dying for, from Delaware. He's a transfer, so that's exciting. He solid kicker out of Delaware, signed him in the transfer portal, so that's what I'm excited for.
I honestly don't know how I forgot. Actually, he should have been our breakout player next year.
He should have been our breakout player. Such a low
next
bar.
Year we can kick.
Yeah. So as long as you make a field goal, you're going to win breakout player of the year here, but that is awesome. That's all our signings. And then we got real quick. Let's touch, it's football season. We can't dive too deep into basketball. We only had the crosstown shootout last week. And then we play Texas Southern and Tennessee Tech the next week. So not too concerned about those two. We should get them. We're 8-3, 3 solid losses. But the Xavier game, little disappointing. Started out pretty close, and then they just blew the doors off of us. I just think we don't have the athletes out there to compete with some of these higher level teams. And Xavier's ranked in the top 25 now. So we just can't stay in front of these athletes with our defense and our rebounding right now. And that's just going to come with time and getting better athletes.
I mean, that is it. It's the rebounding. Like looking at this
rebounding, man, all of our losses, we're just getting smashed on the rebounds.
Yeah. Arkansas, I mean, they out rebounded us 41-28, and we shot pretty poorly at like 37% from the field. But I mean, this might be the first crosstown shootout, at least in recent memory, where we've made more threes than them, which almost never happens.
Yeah.
They get a bench player every single year. Well, and they did this year too with Jack Nungy. Dropped 31 on us.
Insane.
And not 9 for 14 from the field. But I mean, I didn't think we were going to win this game. I thought the line at 6.5 was pretty low and pretty generous for us. So, I mean, well, like you said, I mean, we're 7-3. We have 3 very good losses on the season. Monmouth just went into Pitt and beat Pitt. We still should have won that game, but we played Arkansas super close, and now we had Florida A&M last night, won by 27. Jeremiah Davenport's back to being the leading scorer. Or single game leading scorer at 16, which is the first time that he led the team in scoring since our Presbyterian game. He's been kind of off, but I mean, I don't think anyone was expecting us to be 7-3 through the first.
I think we're
10
still
games.
meeting expectations. So
so we're gonna go 9-3 into conference play.
Yeah,
or
it's exciting.
10-3.
I think 10-3.
10-3.
This has been my outlook right now as I've watched this team. I think this team is just ripe to add a few elite talents. And imagine putting 2 4-stars on this team and then having these guys as your supporting cast. And that's what we have. Yep. We have an awesome supporting cast of guys right now playing as starters. And that's what is, when we could throw in a couple more 4-stars in here, which we're going to do in the next year or two, then we can really take some big leaps here. And that's what I'm excited for. We're laying the groundwork with this supporting cast. And these are the guys you want, a guy right now, any of those guys could score 10 plus points and we wouldn't be surprised. And that's what you need from an elite supporting cast. And then you have 2 to 3 all-stars that run the rest of the team, right? Like that's how it goes. That's how the best teams are. And I think in a few years' time, that's where we should be.
Yep. I mean, we're bringing in Daniel Skillings. I think he'll have the power to be the scoring punch that we need.
Exactly.
And then we have Victor Locken for 3 more years. We have Odie for a few more. He's been a very bouncy, athletic, big energy guy. So I agree. I mean, Jarrett Hensley's only scoring under 2 points a game, and he was a 4-star coming out of high school when he signed with UNCG. So, like you said, I think in Wes Miller's first year, we're 7-3 through 10 games. We're going to bring in much better recruits. The future's really bright, and we still could be a tournament team. Let's see how conference plays out, but the conference isn't
still
that good.
Still could be. So we'll see. But hey, that concludes this episode of Cincinnati Podcast. Great episode. We got to talk a lot about the football, finished with some strong basketball, some great recruits, talking about our offensive MVPs, our defensive MVPs. I mean, what a great season for football. We're going to dive in deeper to the Alabama and Cincinnati game coming up in the next week or so. So look out for that. But Greg, great episode, and we'll talk to you soon, my guy.
Right back at you. See you in Dallas.
All right. See you guys later. Peace.
Peace.